Sometimes, UFC fighters experience moments that define their careers in deeply emotional ways. One tragedy caused a legend to mourn his late daughter.
Losing my first daughter, Kaden, to losing fights.
And another fighter was drowning in depression, almost attempting suicide. These are the most emotional moments in the UFC. Marlon Vera. Starting out with Marlon Vera, who got too emotional after fighting so hard for his daughter's smile. Back in 2011, Marlon Vera and his wife, Maria Paulina Escobar, welcomed their first child, Ana Paula, in 2011. However, as Ana was being wheeled past him, the UFC fighter immediately sensed something was wrong. Doctors confirmed his fears, revealing Ana Paula had a condition, though they initially ruled out Down syndrome. It took 48 agonizing hours for Cheeto and his family to learn their daughter's diagnosis: Mobius syndrome, a rare neurological disorder that paralyzes the facial muscles, leaving patients unable to smile. In a raw and emotional UFC Connect video, Vera recalled the devastating moment.
The doctor came in and he's like, okay guys, there's definitely something going on with her. It's not Down syndrome, but we're not very sure what condition she's born with. And everybody in that room was just like looking at each other like. I remember before when they did the imaging and everything and to see her, everything was normal. How is happening? Why? Why to us? In the happiest day of her life, you receive the worst news. The kid is born with a condition, and there's nothing you can do about it. That just broke me.
A picture is worth 1,000 words, at least so they say. But for Marlon Vera, one photo held the weight of a lifetime. In an interview at the backstage of UFC 227, Vera said,
"But when my wife told me this morning this, I was like, I'm going to war. Like I'm going to, somebody's going to bleed, somebody's going to go down."
After early struggles, Vera unleashed a devastating liver shot to secure a second-round stoppage win over Wuliji Burin. This victory snapped a 2-fight losing streak, a critical moment in his career, as a third consecutive loss could have jeopardized the 25-year-old Venezuelan fighter's future in the UFC. But the pressure of the fight was nothing compared to the burden Vera had carried for years. 2 years earlier, he had started a GoFundMe campaign to raise nearly $50,000 for a crucial surgery for his daughter, Ana Paula, who suffers from Mobius syndrome, a rare neurological condition affecting facial muscles and eye movement. Seeing his daughter smile had always been Vera's dream, a dream realized after a successful 10-hour procedure. And while Vera got to see his child smile again, the same cannot be said for Khabib Nurmagomedov, who lost his father at the peak of his career. Khabib Nurmagomedov has never shied away from expressing how crucial his late father was to his success.
Hey, like biggest inspiration for me, it was my dad, you know.
Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, often hailed as the godfather of Dagestani MMA, ignited a wave of combat sports talent in the region, a legacy that cannot be overstated. On July 3, 2020, the 57-year-old Abdulmanap tragically passed away due to complications from COVID-19. His death profoundly impacted Khabib, prompting the Eagle to make a life-altering decision. Just over 3 months after his father's passing, Khabib defended his UFC lightweight title for the third time, defeating Justin Gaethje in the second round at UFC 254. In an emotional moment following his victory, Khabib announced his retirement from the sport.
Today, I want to say, it was my last fight. And no way I'm gonna come here without my father.
Citing the loss of his father as the driving force behind his decision. Now, a year after the passing of his mentor, Khabib took to Instagram to reflect on the immense influence his father had on his life and career. It's been a year today since the father is gone. This event has increased my belief that, in this world, we own nothing. Not our children, not our parents, not our property. Everything we have is temporary. And even while Khabib had some time with his dad before his demise, wait till you discover what happened to Stipe Miocic, who had to work as a first responder. Stipe Miocic. Stipe Miocic is renowned for his achievements inside the octagon, but his legacy extends far beyond his UFC career. While many fighters spend their days training and preparing for matches, Miocic has a dual identity, a world-class athlete and a dedicated first responder. Born in Euclid, Ohio, Stipe Miocic was introduced to the value of hard work at a young age. His parents, Croatian immigrants, instilled in him a strong work ethic and a sense of duty to his community. This upbringing laid the foundation for his future endeavors, both as a fighter and as a firefighter-paramedic. Despite his success in the sports, he never abandoned his commitment to firefighting. Miocic became a full-time firefighter-paramedic working for the Valley View and Oakwood Village fire departments in Ohio. His days often involved grueling training sessions, followed by shifts at the firehouse, where he responded to emergencies ranging from house fires to medical crises. Balancing two demanding careers is no small feat, yet Miocic approaches both with the same level of dedication and discipline. As a firefighter-paramedic, he faces real-life dangers that require quick thinking, physical strength, and a deep sense of compassion. During the height of his UFC career, in the lead-up to a major fight, Miocic was on shift at the fire department when a call came in about a house fire. Without hesitation, he jumped into action, helping to rescue a family trapped inside the burning building. This act of heroism gathered media attention, but for Miocic, it was just another day on the job. And even though he had an emotional life contributing both inside and outside the ring, his story is not as emotional as Ronda Rousey, who once thought about ending it all. Ronda Rousey. While many know her as the trailblazing UFC champion who brought women's MMA into the mainstream, few are aware of the deep emotional battles she's fought outside the octagon. One of the most challenging of these battles has been her struggle with depression. The immense pressure of being at the top, coupled with the scrutiny of the public eye, began to take toll on her mental health. The turning point came in November 2015 when she faced Holly Holm at UFC 193. In one of the biggest upsets in MMA history, Rousey was knocked out in the second round. The loss was not just a physical defeat, but a psychological blow that shattered her confidence. In the aftermath of the fight, Rousey went into a deep depression. She retreated from the public eye, grappling with feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. During an interview with Ellen DeGeneres, she revealed just how dark those days were, admitting that she had even contemplated suicide.
I was like in the medical room, and I was like down in the corner. I was sitting in the corner, and I was like, what am I anymore if I'm not this? And I was literally sitting there and like thinking about killing myself. In that exact second, I'm like, I'm nothing. I'm like, what do I do anymore? And no one gives a shit about me anymore without this.
Rousey's battle with depression was compounded by the loss of her father to suicide when she was just 8 years old. The grief and trauma from that event had never fully healed, and the defeat in the octagon brought those unresolved emotions to the surface. Despite the darkness, Rousey found a glimmer of hope and a reason to keep fighting. Her then-boyfriend, now husband, Travis Brown, played a crucial role in helping her find her way back. He offered support and reminded her of her worth beyond the cage. Her return to the UFC in December 2016 to face Amanda Nunes was a courageous step, but it ended in another defeat. After that fight, Rousey retired from MMA, transitioning to a new career in professional wrestling with WWE. But Ronda Rousey wasn't the only one who almost committed suicide, because Matt Hughes found himself in a similar situation. Matt Hughes. Arguably one of the greatest welterweights in MMA, Matt Hughes was involved in a horrendous accident in 2017. The former two-time welterweight champion suffered life-threatening injuries when his pickup truck collided with a moving train in Raymond, Illinois. This tragic event occurred on Beeler's Trail as Matt Hughes was returning from Montgomery County. At that critical moment, Hughes was unable to see the approaching train due to the lack of railroad crossing signs. The train struck the passenger side of Hughes' truck, causing severe injuries. Hughes was immediately rushed to a hospital, where he was placed in a medically induced coma for 19 days. This tragic news broke out to the UFC and created one of the most emotional moments in the sport. Despite making rapid progress in his recovery, his physical abilities have been massively impaired. 4 years after the accident, Matt Hughes continues to work on his motor skills while attending the gym. Matt Hughes claims to have a close-knit support system consisting of his friends and family, However, the Pioneer Wing inductee admits to having experienced a period of severe depression during which he contemplated suicide.
I've got some good friends, and I'll admit I've thought about suicide, but if I commit suicide, then I have so many people watch me, they might think it's good to do the same things, so I can't do that.
As a former champion, Hughes managed to overcome these suicidal tendencies, becoming an inspiration for others facing similar problems. And even though he eventually pulled himself together, what about Andre Fili, who showed up to a fight after losing the chance to meet his unborn child? Andre Fili. Fighting through adversity is one of the toughest challenges, especially when it involves losing someone close to you. This was the case with Andre Fili during his appearance at UFC Vegas 60. Andre is a UFC featherweight who's been competing for years. During his post-fight interview with Daniel Cormier, everything was progressing smoothly until DC talked about his journey to this point. It was then that Andre disclosed some heartbreaking news to the public. During Fili's post-fight interview, he revealed the truth that he entered the fight while grieving the loss of his unborn child. Speaking with Daniel Cormier, Fili became emotional and struggled to hold back his tears.
Man, I went through so much this camp. Like anybody you see in this fight, anyone you see in this cage is 1% of their story. It took them so much just to get here. Even through these last 8 weeks, I lost so much.
At this point, he was starting to break into tears when he said,
I can't even talk about it, man. I lost a baby. It would have been my first kid, man. And 4 weeks into this fight, man, and I just want to dedicate this fight to whoever they would have been. I love you so much.
You could see DC comforting him by putting his hand on his shoulder. And even though this got everyone teary, it cannot be compared to Anthony Johnson, who dropped the most emotional speech before his demise. Anthony Johnson. The MMA community was devastated when legendary UFC fighter Anthony "Rumble" Johnson passed away at just 38 years old. Fans were unaware of his illness until after his death. Before his retirement, Anthony put up one of his worst performances ever. Everyone, including his coaches and his fans, were frustrated and confused about why he kept doing the opposite of the game plan and what they were coaching him to do during the fight. But this wasn't just about his last match, it was more like his final moment in the game. If you may know, every UFC fan has always anticipated a fight between Anthony Johnson and Jon Jones. So, during his last match, Anthony addressed Jon Jones, who was in the audience, acknowledging the fight that fans had always wanted but never got to see. With deep emotion, he said,
"Maybe in the next life we'll do that."
It was not so long after his retirement that he passed away. Everyone thought Anthony could do better, but looking back at this now, maybe deep down, he knew he wanted to spend his time differently. At least, everyone is happy the man was able to try to do what he wanted, maybe even if it didn't work out. He probably could have grinded and been a UFC champion, but given his limited time, it's so sad how it all played out. But as Anthony never got his dying wish, Daniel felt lost after losing the one person he was fighting for. Daniel Cormier. One of the most emotional chapters in Cormier's life is the tribute he pays to his late daughter, Kaden Emery Cormier, whose tragic passing continues to shape his journey both as a fighter and as a human being. In 2003, Cormier's life changed forever when he became a father to Kaden. She brought an unparalleled light into his life, her smile and laughter becoming the anchor of his world. However, this joy was heartbreakingly short-lived. On June 14, 2003, Kaden tragically passed away in a car accident. She was just 3 months old. The loss of Kaden shattered his heart and left a void that could never be filled. In the wake of her demise, Cormier struggled with unimaginable grief, grappling with the pain of losing his beloved daughter. Throughout his career, Cormier has openly spoken about Kaden and the impact her loss had on him. In interviews and public appearances, he has shared his story, shedding light on the emotional journey of a father who lost his child.
From losing my first daughter, Kaden, to losing fights, they gave me the strength to be the man that I am today.
It's heartbreaking to think that he didn't get the help he needed in time. That's it for this video. So, Who do you think had the most emotional journey among these UFC fighters? We'd love to know your thoughts in the comments section. Also, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching.